Okay, thank you guys for coming So ngayon we're having a property management VA training. Um this is for everyone that is managing or working with a real estate client that is managing short-term or long-term rentals. So but the first set of the training, we'll just go over the overview, and then later on we'll just deep dive with the details now. So we have Eve here. She's the operations manager of Recession Proof. So she has years of experience with property management. So I think she'll be a good resource for everyone. Can you guys
Hi.
hear us okay? No?
Yes, Miss
Okay,
Sir
good.
Jordan.
Yes, sir.
Sige. Just yung mga questions nyo for Eve, just type it in sa chat. Okay? Or if you can raise your hand later. So para hindi ma-interrupt si Eve dun sa flow, and then we can go over with the questions afterwards. Sige. So na Eve, bahala. I'll stop
Okay.
sharing my screen.
All right. So let's start. So good evening or good morning to some, to everyone. So welcome to the PMVA training. So PMVA stands for Property Management Virtual Assistant. So let me share my screen. All right. So for the property management, so let's start with knowing first, what does a property manager do? So the property manager is the middleman between an owner and a renter that is responsible for various tasks, including handling property upkeep, and usually hired by the landowner who doesn't have the time or experience to handle the business related task involved. Um, well, landowner or landlords. So it doesn't mean that so some of them, or example of landlords, are mostly real estate investors, and usually they still have a day job, so they would need a proper property manager to help them with their rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, they may not have a day job, but they have, since they are investors, they have a lot of other businesses. So aside from the rentals, they may be with fix and flip, wholesaling. So they would really need assistance in regards to managing if they have rental properties. And some just really needs help to be organized. So, what
Mm-hmm.
is property management? So it is the overseeing and management of various commercial and residential real estate properties. This includes taking care of all the daily operations for a property, including collecting rent, handling maintenance, tenant complaints, and more. And let's go ahead and deep dive on it and to see what does really PMVA do. So let's see here. So how property management VA works. So they handle everything that occurs in a daily rental property. They should have a working knowledge of the real estate industry. The rental operates in such as industrial property or housing, and they ensure that the owner's goals are met by managing rent, tenants, maintenance budgets, and rental property records. They must also have an in-depth familiarity of state and knowledge laws regarding the legal
Mm-hmm.
methods to screen tenants, handle security, deposit, terminate leases, conduct evictions, and comply with property safety standards. So what is the main role? So the main role
Mm-hmm.
is to manage routine tasks delegated to them by the owners and to preserve the value of the properties they manage while generating income.
Yes.
So what are those tasks that is delegated by the owners? So here are the common tasks of a PMVA. So these are some of the common tasks that we have. So first, you see there, setting rent. Setting rent means you set competitive rent prices to attract tenants. So by setting rent, you would need to learn how to run a rental comps. When we say rental comps, it is something that when you go to different website where a property is advertised for rent, you check how much is the market rent, and then you will be comparing uh, you should have at least 3 to 5 samples of
Mm-hmm.
market rent within that range. You can search by zip code or per city, so you would know how much is the market rent. So that with the comparables that you have, you can set the rent on how much you will advertise the market rent for that specific property. So that's for setting rent. And examples that you can visit for that is you can go to Zillow, you can go to apartments.com. So the different marketing websites where usually rental properties are posted.
Yes. Eve, maybe you could show us what does yung Zillow looks like and
Mhm.
maybe a sample computation if it's okay.
Sure. So let's go
Kahit ano
to,
lang, random numbers lang, just so that they can see how it's actually applied.
so personally, when I do rental comps, so for example, we usually go to Cleveland. Most of the properties that we manage is Cleveland. So for example, a Cleveland property, let's use this address. So
Mhm.
if we are going to look for the rental comps for this address, we go to Zillow. We see that the rental property amount or the market rent is $675 in Zillow, and usually you will see their rent estimate.
Mhm.
So I usually follow the rent estimate, so that is the number that I will use as an example. And then aside from Zillow, I go to apartment.com. Let's go to apartment.com. Then I copy the address. So I also do this when I try to search for an option to increase the market rent that is already set on the property. So I search on different website with the matching address and see what's the amount or market rent that is advertised.
Mm.
Um,
I guess I would like to add, no, for the sake of yung mga that haven't done this task pa for their clients. This is not like a typical task, di ba, Eve,
mhm,
for the VAs. Kasi most of the time, your clients already know how much is their preferred market rent.
right.
Kasi, of course, normally naman, well, they should. Before they buy a property, they do their research.
Their due
So,
diligence.
nagdo-due diligence na sila. So, alam na nila kung magkano yung running rent for that area. So, itong mga task na to, hindi siya yung parang part of the process of every property na hinahandle nyo. So, more on supplementary task siya, no, Eve?
Correct.
Okay.
So that is for setting the rent.
Setting
So
rent. Mm.
mhm. So you just get the how much it is advertised on the different websites that it's advertised, and then we usually get the average. Or then what I do is you usually get the average and still present it to the owner or to the landlord, and they're still the one who's going to approve if that's the market rent that they would like to be advertised for the property. So that's for setting rent. And then next that we have here for common task is collecting rent. So for collecting rent, we ensure optimal cash flow through organized collection. So for collecting rent, there are different ways on how you can collect rent. Um, we are you if you will be using a software or a tool like
Mm.
Appfolio, we can do collect rent there. But if not, if your client is not using a certain software like that, there are a lot of ways that they can collect rent. Either a check, sometimes it's still issue check. They can direct deposit, or they can give um, nowadays Cash App, Zelle is in demand. So most of them
Mm,
are
yeah.
already processing it through online, like an online banking if it's here in the Philippines, transfers. So that those are the ways that how they can collect rent. But part of this collecting rent task is the reminders. You have to send them reminders if the rent is due on the first. So perhaps a week before or a few days before, you have to set them reminders about the when the rent is due and when the payment is expected. And part of it as well is if they are if you will be able to see if the tenants are not yet paid, then also reminders to those that are already delinquent. So
Mm.
so that is part of collecting rent, the collecting rent task. Next is screening tenants. So for screening tenants, it says find prospective tenants and handle tenants move out and eviction. But I think with screening tenants, the main task you have here is if you already have a prospect applicant or tenant for that specific property, this where the background check comes in. So we usually, or the owner or the landlord usually run or would ask you to run background checks for the tenants that they will accept for their properties. That includes income, some credit score. So for the income, usually they put a ratio if it's 1:2 or 1:3, meaning
Mm.
rent is equivalent to 2 times of the income or 3 times of the income. It depends on what the set standards of the
It depends on the owner, no?
yes.
Yung pero what's the standard, Eve?
It is usually 1:2.
One to two. So real life example lang, for example, if the rent is ano,
If there's
500, let's
500,
say $1,000, 'di ba?
yeah. Then
Yung income niya is dapat
should be
2,000
$2,000 or more.
minimum. That
Minimum, yes.
yun yung minimum. So isa lang yan sa mga qualifiers when
Of course,
screening
yeah.
tenants. Yeah.
Another qualifier would be if the tenant has a hit, if they have past evictions. That is something
Yes,
that we need to
yes.
consider. If they have past eviction. Second, if they have felony or sexual harassment records. So those are red flags, and most of the landlords do not want those kind of tenants into their properties. So those are the part of screening tenants, and we also do what do you call this? Employment verification. So
Yes.
they may do provide a pay slip or a bank statement showing that this is their income and saying that they are employed by this company. But we
Mhm.
always do employment verification and call, at least speak to HR or a supervisor to confirm if the tenant is really a regular employee and if this is really the income
Or
that
ghost employee.
correct. So
I think I would like to add, sometimes, 'di ba, some of the PMVAs, it depends on the owner again.
yes,
Pero sometimes you have to call their office, right? And
correct.
verify employment with HR. Much like what we do, if you guys have been in, I'm sure most of you have been in offices
Mm-hmm.
before you sign the job offer, 'di ba, sometimes they ask for references. And
Correct.
so, a PMVA does that too sometimes. They ask for their office number, tapos they talk to HR just to get how long have you been working with this office, ganon. And, just para ma-confirm lang na you have an actual um,
Job.
consistent income and yeah, job para sa bago ka gawing tenant ng mga
Yeah.
landlords natin.
Since the main goal is to generate income for the landlord or for the owner, you have to make sure that the tenants that you are going to put into those properties are quality tenants. So, kasi in the end, it will still be sakit mo din ng ulo yun if the tenant is not is not a good
Delinquent
payer
na.
or if the tenant is has a bad attitude or whatever. So that's why screening tenant is a
Is
very
very
important
important.
task.
Kasi
Yes,
magiging problema nyo rin sila later down the road if
correct.
you're accepting delinquent tenants, yung mga late magbayad, yung mga laging may reklamo, laging
Mhm.
kunyari I'm not gonna pay my rent kasi the faucet is leaking. I'm not gonna pay my rent because the grass hasn't been,
Yeah, they have
'di ba?
attitude.
Yes. Oh, so
So you will see that if you will notice, they have a lot of past evictions in the past. So that's really a red flag that maybe this person would really be not fit for that property. So
true.
that's for screening tenants. Next is finding contractors. Now,
Okay.
look for reliable contractors to do the job. So the keyword here is reliable. So in the past experiences that we have, contractors are very important with your work as a property manager, because yeah, we have tenants like what Jordan mentioned, that who will frequently call that there is a leak, that there is a aside from leak, there is something that is needs to be repaired about the sink or the porch or the stairs, whatever that they have. The water heater is not working, so you will be receiving these messages from the tenants.
Mm.
Since you are managing rental properties, these tenants, usually some of the tenants are not as hindi ganun kakulit or not as demanding.
High maintenance. Hindi sila
Mhm.
ganun ka-high maintenance. Yeah.
And when you encounter those kind of tenants, you really need to have a reliable contractor. So reliable means it is a contractor that you can rely on, who will give you good rates
Mhm.
with the amount, because always keep in mind the goal is for the owner to generate income. So you need to find different types of contractors. We have general contractors who can do rehab, repairs, everything they can do with the
Mm.
property, or someone with specialties like a plumber who will be looking for leaks, or HVAC. So landscaper, because some contractors do not do, they do repairs, but they do not do landscaping. So in the US, there are
Mhm.
times, there are season that we need to cut the grass. So there are months that we need a landscaper. So
Tama.
we need to have a contact of each type of contractors. So according to with our experience, we need to have at least three, four contractors. It depends on the number, by the way. It depends on the number
The
of
number of
properties that we
properties
manage.
that you manage. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm. But it is very important that you have a reliable, because one, you are not there. We are working remote. So what your contractor tell you that, hey, I have already done that. I have already fixed the sink. It's no longer leaking. And then you tell the tenant that it should have been fixed. And according to tenant, it's not. So
Mm.
that's where the miscommunication is, that you always need to request for a picture before and after
Yes.
picture from the contractors, to see as a proof that they have really done the job before you process the payment. Because as a property manager, you will be the one who will be processing payment to these contractors as well.
Yes.
So, so those are the things, key things that you need to remember when you try to find contractors. Number one really is reliable. So you will
It,
experience some that will tell you that, hey, I already replaced it with a brand new water heater, but it's not. Then you're the owner, already paid for it. Then in the end,
yes.
you will notice you in the end, or after a couple of weeks, another work order with the same issue.
Mm.
So we don't want that. So
We
it's
sometimes merong parang it's almost should be a rule of thumb, you know, when dealing with contractors, always ask for before and after photos, kasi
correct.
you don't want to be paying, kasi most of the time these landlords or these yung mga client owners natin, they don't really have time to check each
Mhm.
repairs, 'di ba?
Correct.
And so just for us to have like some sort of check and balance, you need to make sure na makikita mo yung picture, para lang ma-ensure yung quality ng trabaho. Para ka lang kunyari nagpagawa ka ng kitchen cabinet sa bahay mo, 'di ba? And then ikaw nasa abroad ka, let's say nasa US ka.
Mm.
You just want to make sure na yung gawa nila is pulido.
Correct.
Kasi ikaw rin ang babalikan ng tenant eh. Pag
Mhm.
sinabi ng tenant na, hindi naman ginawa na maayos to eh. O, problema ka na naman kasi binayaran mo na yung contractor mo, yung pala, hindi pa tapos yung trabaho. Eh, paano kung hindi ka na sinagot ng contractor mo? O, edi bawas sahod, charot. Pero, kailangan maayos talaga yung relationship tsaka yung communication with
Correct.
the contractors. And then most of the time, when it comes to finding contractors, I would just like to add is, the most of the clients already have a contractor list.
Yeah.
So, Siguro to add lang dito sa task ng finding contractors is it's best to be proactive when it comes to updating that list. Kasi not all contractors are available whenever there's a repair that needs to be done urgently, 'di ba?
Correct.
So it's good to have, like sinabi ni Eve kanina, multiple people for every job at hand. So pag meron kang listahan ng mga pintor,
Mm-mm.
kailangan at least 5 pintor 'yan. Kapag meron kang listahan ng plumber,
Plumber.
at least 5 plumber 'yan. So that you could always check for the best price and then the soonest availability nila.
Correct.
Yun lang, sige.
So that's for finding contractors. Now, this works hand in hand with the managing work order task. So for managing work orders, so what's happening here is the tenant will submit a request, a maintenance request, either via email, via chat, or if you will be using a tool like Appfolio, they can send work orders directly to Appfolio. So when you receive this work orders from the tenants, you have to set a timeline. So a timeline on when this, how soon this work order can be done, and this is when you will start reaching out to your contractors. So you need to have at least, if you have a couple of contractors at hand, you would need to have at least one or two repair bids because you will schedule them to check on what's the problem. So if it is a leak or if we need to change the toilet, you would need to have at least several choices of pricing because since the goal is to get the cheapest price, but
Possible.
yes, possible price, but still quality work. So
Yes.
as you go along the way, you would know who are the contractors who are giving you the cheapest rates, but is not work that the work is not that quality. So you would have to weigh. So you have a decision power here, which contractor you should go with in a specific repair job that needs to be done. So you need to always have repair bids so that you will have a comparison. It's either on it depends on how you work with the owner. If the owner is hands-on, you can represent them repair bids and let them decide which contractor to go with. Or if the owner is giving you full power, then you can go ahead and decide to whichever is the best interest for the company or for the owner, to which repair bid you will choose. So part of it is for managing work order is also communicating with the tenant for the timeline when it should be done, and once it's scheduling the contractor, and once it's already done, present pictures of the repaired whatever the repair job is. So that's for managing work orders.
Yes.
So next is answering tenants. This is just really mainly communication with the tenant. Because once you already have a tenant in place, usually they will just reach out to you if they have maintenance requests, or if they will be late for the rent payment, or if they have any other concerns with the property. So the main thing here is to make sure that you will be able to respond to them quickly or on a timely manner to be able to resolve their concerns and complaints. Because in the end, if they will give you a bad review, or if they have the number of the owner or landlord and they will go directly to the landlord, it will be bad
For you.
for you. Yeah, since you are there to manage the property, and
Oo nga eh.
the owners don't want to be receiving calls like this from the tenants. So you have
Pero
to make
how often does the tenant communicate with the property management VA?
it's just most likely if they have a maintenance request. Because if they are going to be late with payments, they don't usually reach out to you. You reach out
They
to
will
them.
ghost you na, di ba?
Yes. So that is if they want something from you. So it's and if
Yeah,
what they want is
exactly.
just really requests or something about the concerns about the property, about the house. So that's
Yes.
mainly the reason why they are reaching out.
Question lang. I mean, is everyone finding value here or masyado ba kaming mabilis?
Yeah.
Oo.
Feel free to interrupt or ask questions
Oo,
if you have anything in
mag-ask kayo
mind. This
Masyadong
is
tahimik ang lahat
yeah.
eh.
We can have this as a collaborative effort.
Oo. Yeah, we want you guys to learn as much as possible kasi this is all for you eh.
And
Um, ano, go Eve, ano yan?
I believe some of them is already working as a property manager, right?
Yeah, so
So
this is more of a refresher for them.
so if you have something that you think that is not something that you're not doing on your end, or this is new, or you have some question with what we are discussing, just feel free to send a message or interrupt me anytime.
Yes. Okay. One thing that I would like to add dito sa answering to tenants, I mean, every client has their own way of running their business, diba? And
Yes.
that's the reality of things. So may mga ibang tenant ay landlord na gusto nila yung tinatawagan ng PMVA yung tenant nila para mas mabilis yung communication. Sometimes naman texting is okay. Pero most of the time, 'di ba? Cathy, ikaw ba with Nick, how do you communicate with your tenants? Is it call, text, or
First, yeah, he preferred to text muna, and then after, if no response for the for the entire day, or if it's urgent, I need to call the tenants or the contractor.
oh, yon.
Mas prefer niya yung call pag hindi nag-respond.
Oh, tama 'yan, tama 'yan. And again, every client has their own way. So minsan so iba-iba yung softwares na gamit, and we'll
Correct.
go into that later. Tapos minsan naman yun nga, minsan prefer nila text blast muna. Tapos pag walang sumagot, let's say the next day or kinahapunan. Basta the main point here is you need to have all yung mga agreements nyo with the client. At least there has to be a paper trail para let's say na pag sinabi ni tenant na okay, nagbayad na ako on this date with this amount, as much as possible you try to ask them if the call is not recorded, at least kahit papano is um i-text yon so that you have it documented kasi kapag 'di ba Kati, kapag nagtanong si kliyente tapos minsan may dininay si tenant, ikaw ang
Mm.
mapuputukan.
Yes. So lahat talaga ng transaction dapat lahat may proof.
Yes.
So para hindi na kayo babalikan case na magkaroon ng aberya dun sa
Oo,
mga requirements or sa mga importanteng pinagagawa ni client.
exactly. Because there are times na ang tenant you have to evict the tenant. So when that happens, may mga hearing, ganyan-ganyan. So kailangan pa ng mga evidence. So it's always good to have everything recorded.
Yes.
Ayun. Okay. Next na.
Next, we
Ano
have
tayo?
is managing the budget. So, also as a property manager, you will be given a task to purchase. Since we are going to do some repair jobs, sometimes they need to buy, for example, they need a new toilet, they need a paint. So sometimes this is already included on the fee of the contractors, but there are times that we can purchase it ourselves if we need smoke detectors. So we can have that option to buy it ourselves, and we will just have the contractors install whatever that is needed. For example, as well, sometimes owners provide appliances like stove or fridge. So you tend to shop on Home Depot, or you check on Amazon, or where if they have a specific go to store where to buy those things. They usually provide their credit card for you to make a purchase, and for that, you have to make sure that you would be buying on a specific threshold. Just to give you an example, we are given a credit card, and for that we need to manage. You are given a threshold up to $500 purchase in a week. So this still depends on the owner or the landlord if how they would like you to do, or up to what extent you can make payments or purchases. And you have to make sure that whatever purchases that you have is always approved by the owner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Since this is money, So before you do anything, before you use the card, unless you already have an agreement with the owner that this is the threshold that you
Ito yung
have.
max limit mo.
Yeah, you have a limit up to $500 a day. So it depends. You usually need to set that.
Bili ka na Alexa.
You need to set that the budget with the owner. You need to have an understanding together of how much can you really just purchase, since you need to operate within the set budget for the property. So this is where the owners really trust needs to make sure that they trust the property manager, because they will be handing money you're going to purchase. They don't want to see their statements that you have already purchased PS5 in Amazon.
Hmm. Pero sometimes, di ba, Eve, we have the option. I'm not sure if you can help me remember what store was that. Pero the property management VA can purchase online and then ipipick up na lang ng ano, di ba?
Yes,
Ng
contractor.
contractor.
Or sometimes like in one of the properties that we manage in Breckenridge, we already have like a credit line. Like we already have a credit with the store, then the contractor can just go there, purchase whatever, and put it on the account of the owner. But still, you have to make sure you know how much and how whatever amount it has been approved by the owner. So this is very
Yes.
critical since money involved. So you have to make sure the owner is always in the loop with how much is the purchases, and if they have already given the approval or a green light to go ahead and make the purchase.
You don't want to be seeing text messages from clients na I did not approve that.
Yeah.
Hirap na.
Yeah, that's true. So that's for managing the budget. Next is marketing properties. Well, this should have been the first discussed, but for marketing properties, it is like when what I have discussed on setting rent. I have shown you different website, Zillow, affordable, go Section 8 if they go to Section 8 with Section 8 tenants, LinkedIn, Zumper, Show Me the Rent. So you can market the properties on the different websites that is available on the internet, or depends on which state your owner is located. So first thing that you need to have is to make sure you have a nice photos of the property. So the exterior and the interior parts of the house, you need to have those photos. And for the listing, if you have a folio going back to the same tool, if your owner is using a folio, there is a syndication there that it will just automatically post that property on a different websites. So, but if you will be doing this manually, just visit those websites that are available online, and you have to make sure that you have the correct market rent for the
Yeah.
property.
That's a common
And-
problem, no?
Yes, and also you have to like if you could create like a copywriting of a brief description of the property, where it is located, is it near to a school, near to a church, because those are the things that usually what renters look for, so that you can
Yes.
just attract more prospect applicants.
Kumbaga dito sa Pilipinas, most of the time sa marketplace lang tayo nagpo-post kapag meron tayong paupahan, 'di ba? In the US they have yung mga typical websites. Maybe can you show an example post sa team, Eve? Do you have one there?
Let's use
Ayun sa Go Section 8, marami.
Miss Eve, sorry to cut you off, but I have a question regarding yung pagpo-post ng mga house natin sa different website, like for example, yung affordablehousing.com. I have a case kasi, like for example, si tenant nag-inquire sa isang apartment, but it is from under siya ng Section 8, but then tinatanong niya kung pwede rin daw Eden doon. It's different, di ba? Yung Eden saka yung Section 8.
When we say Section 8 tenants, these are tenants that can have housing vouchers or housing assistance voucher. It differs. Eden is part of them. It depends on which state the tenant is
Mhm.
located. So there are CMHA, there's Parma Housing, or in Arizona there
Eden.
is an ARRP, or Arizona Rental Assistance Program. So it depends. But Eden is, I think, is works with different states. So,
Oo. So,
but
kumbaga parang yung Go Section 8, yung Section 8, parang siya yung generic. Tapos yung
kumbaga,
Eden, yun yung branded.
correct.
Kumbaga sa gamot.
Dito sa Philippines, yung, ano nga yung tawag doon? Yung mga,
Pag-ibig.
Ano?
ano nga
Four
Parang
tawag?
piece?
pag-ibig ba yung
Four
Oo,
piece?
CMH?
yung mga kasali sa 4-piece or hindi
Oo.
For
ba
fees.
yun?
Basta, in order for a tenant to qualify sa Go Section 8, they need to have yung low income, 'di ba? They need to declare low income. So yung Eden, yung mga minention ni Eden, CMHA, Parma, ARRM, those are just different programs under Go Section 8. So each program has their own mga unique policies kasi.
Correct.
May mga yung Eden, may bawal sa Eden na pwede sa Parma. So it's also helpful na yung malaman mo kung anong voucher yung meron yung tenant na yun.
So, the things that you need to know is how many bedroom voucher they have, kasi that where the rent offer will depend. Kasi if your property is a three-bedroom house or property, then yung voucher niya is just 1 bedroom, then the tenant will just be eligible for a lower amount of rent.
Yes.
Yun natin yung question ni Cathy. Yun ba yung question mo, Kat?
No, kasi po, hindi po. Kasi nagtataka ko dun sa isang nag-inquire sa akin dun sa isang apartment ni Nick. Kasi meron siyang voucher, pero tinatanong niya kung pwede pa rin ba i-apply to, or tumatanggap ba tayo kahit
Ng
Section
Eden.
8 ng Eden. So right now, hindi ko pa matanong
That
si
you
Nick.
have to verify with Nick, kasi some Eden vouchers are only for short term.
Yeah.
Meaning 3 months only or 6 months only yung i-cover. Unlike other housing assistance program, they cover the entirety hanggang nakastay ang tenant doon sa property.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's a year. So it depends sa coverage ng voucher nila.
Voucher nila.
There is a long term, but there are mostly Eden has short term vouchers. So,
Nice.
like Nick, or me personally, if ako ang owner, I would prefer to have those who has long-term
Longer term.
vouchers, instead of this na 3 months lang siya mako-cover ng Eden, and then after 3 months it will be the tenant who will be paying for the rent out of pocket na nila, and we don't know if they can
they
make
have the
payment.
capacity to pay the rent.
Then in the end, baka hindi lang din makabayad and i-evict lang din. And that's
Ang
Sakit
hirap
pa naman ng
naman din.
ulo mo yun.
Yeah.
Oo. Pero for that situation, you can just message your client. You can message Nick na, I have a tenant here who's a Eden voucher holder. Do you accept Eden? Oo. Gets na nila yun. Okay.
Ayan lang. Nasagot na naman. Thank you.
So, yun, like for example here in affordable housing, so it means mga Section 8, mga Section 8 tenants yung nandito. So for example, ito nakalagay dyan kung ilang bed, ilang bath, then saan located, property details. So this is the sample of market or advertisement when marketing a property.
Ayan, asan ba yung copy? May ad copy ka bang maipapakita dyan, Dave?
Ad copy na lang here is ito lang maikli lang.
Ayan.
Sa low kalimitan, madami.
Oo, pero ayan, built in 2019, ayan.
Yan, ito, ad copy.
Ay, haba niyan.
But sometimes you just need to make it precise, brief, description kung ano yung meron sa property. Parang ito lang is nilagyan na yung instructions
You don't really have to hard sell the property kasi ang dami-daming tenant dyan
Correct.
So, tingin ko yun masyadong mahaba na yun. Too much effort na.
Yes. So these are just the common task of a PMVA. So I think we have discussed this when we on finding contractors earlier, but here on the next slide, it shows choosing the right contractor for your job. So once you've done your research and made a list of the potential contractors, you think might be right for your home improvement or maintenance project, taking the following steps will help ensure you get the best results for the best price. So first is you have to provide a clear description of your project. Ano ba yung gagawin? What needs to be done? Is it paint? Is it a paint job? Is it a problem with HVAC or a leak? Usually it's always a leak based on experience. They're calling about a leak or some of the what you call that, mga saksakan.
Yung mga sockets, yeah.
It's not working, electrical. So you have to be precise with the description of what needs to be done so that when the contractor gets in there, they can provide you
A more accurate bid.
correct brief bid and the costing. And
Yes.
second is get multiple bids. This is what I mentioned earlier, that you need to get multiple bids so you can check and have a comparison that this contractor is giving you $300 and this one can give it to you for just 150 with the same job. So at least you would know you have your choices and you can get the best price. And check references. For references, like what Jordan also mentioned earlier, your client or the owner usually already have a list. So this list are referred to them by their wholesalers or the other real estate investor or by their friends. So you have reference. If you have a reference like this or a list like this, then you call them, you check reference, or you can, when you check reference, you can also check if they can send you like a portfolio of the previous jobs that they have already done. So you would also see how good or what quality work this contractor can provide.
Pero most of the time naman, walang portfolio itong mga to, no?
Yeah. Well, recently we are able to get
Ah,
portfolio
really? Okay.
from we are asking for a previous job or at least what they have done before, a picture, so they can provide you that.
Yeah. Pwede naman pero in real world, sometimes Facebook page, di ba?
Yes,
And
if they have a
then,
business page.
and kumbaga, reference doesn't have to come in a solid written form or in a paper naman. Reference pwedeng referral from another investor parang, di ba? Na, ay, okay tong tubero ko.
Oo.
Tawagan mo to. Ito na lang kunin mo.
He's giving us a good price. He's doing a good job.
So sometimes it's helpful to post on different Facebook groups, 'di ba, Eve? Tapos you get comments doon kasi syempre maraming magbibigay ng mga feedback dyan sa experience na sa contractor, sino yung mga dapat iwasan, sino yung mga hindi naman talaga maayos magtrabaho. So that can be a good source of reference then.
Yes. The next is watch out for red flags. So for the red flags, sometimes this cannot be the red flags will not show until you started working with the contractor. The red flag can be when you ask for a photo of the job that has been done and he can't provide you one. He's telling you that I'll send it to you later. It's been later, no picture. I'll send it to you tomorrow. So those are red flags. If they can't provide you a written or a proof that the job has been done, then that's a red flag. Second, another red flag that I'm thinking of would be if they are sending you invoices that what, for example, you have already the bid. The bid says $300, and then you receive the final invoice, and then it shows that it's $450.
Gulpi di gulat.
Yeah. Then they would tell you that, oh, because I needed to add this, I needed to buy another materials that is not included on the repair bid. So you have to make sure that what was presented on the repair bid, it is what you will receive on the final invoice. And you have to make sure that they are aware that if they would need to add more, then it always needs to be informed to you first and get an approval with the owner first if they would still like to proceed. So because there are times that they will do add-ons. So that's a red flag.
Basta lagi mo lang iisipin, may watch out ka lang sa mga budol moves ba ng mga contractor na usapan $200 tapos biglang 500 yung invoice, 'di ba? Tapos hindi naman pala nila sinabi na magkakabit sa ng bagong piyesa or something. So much like in real life, ganun lang din yung sa trabaho with dealing with the contractors.
Yes. Well, for the red flags, I'm not describing a specific
Particular person.
with experience that Jordan knows.
There's
But
so much.
yeah, there's so many umiwas kayo sa budol and the promises that is ng mga contractors na sinasabi na that will be done in a week. And another red flag is if they are not
Delay.
on the timeline. So the timeline is this job will be done in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks they will tell you, yeah, it's just finishing touches. It will be done, and then eventually you will notice it's already been 2 months. With the 2 weeks timeline, you already jumped to 2 months, and you still haven't received a
An
concrete,
update. Oh,
concrete answer that the repair or the rehab is already done. So that's a red flag. And if you experience that, cross out that contractor and find a new one. Kasi if you will keep on working with that contractor,
Sasakit ng ulo mo.
sasakit ang ulo mo. Correct.
Hmm.
So yeah, since if you will notice, we have discussed a lot about contractors because you are really working hand in hand with the contractor. Since you work remotely, all you can do on your end is just to really communicate, follow up, update, get an update, and ever since that's the least that's the what we can just do on our end. If the one on the field is not working what they are supposed to do, then it will still be on you because you're dealing with a contractor. If you know the contractor is already fishy or a lot of red flags, then decide to stop the job, tell the owner that, hey, this contractor has been flaky in the past weeks and we're not receiving a good result. Perhaps I can let this contractor go and get the new one. So you have to decide when to stop working with that contractor because
draw the line.
Yeah, it will drag a lot of problems in the end.
Kasi ko pa masisisi.
Yes, that's correct. So you really have to make sure you have a contractor, a reliable contractor to work.
Work with good people only.
Correct.
Excuse me, Eve and Sir Jordan.
Yes,
just wanted to ask about the contractor. Pwede tayong kumuha ng contractor, individual contractor din sila pero they are under a company?
Yeah.
Pwede naman. Pwede naman. Kumbaga diskarte mo na 'di ba, Eve?
Correct.
Oo.
Okay, so nandito na tayo sa understanding property management. Okay, so you will see here it's like 4 stages or part of the cycle.
I think mas maganda ito muna eh.
Yes, so let's go with the cycle first. So if you will see here, this is like the 4 stages of the
Psyche.
Hello?
Sige.
Can you hear me?
I-mute ko. Sino ba yun?
Okay, so this is the 4 cycle or stages when you do property management task. So as you notice, this is in circle kasi you can start anywhere from this stages. So if you, the owner or your client, acquire a new property, so pwedeng si client when they receive the property, there's already a tenant in place, for example. So if there's already a tenant in place, you can start with already with fulfill. So that means that tenant already is will be sending you work orders. You will be sending lease to sign a new lease with your owner or with your client for this tenant. So when you say fulfill,
you manage na. It should be managed pala eh, di ba? Nakalimutan natin i-update.
This is where already you are managing. There's already a tenant in place. So you will be starting with the collection of rent reminders. You will be already processing report, meetings, work orders. So this is already the managing part. It's part what we discussed earlier on the common task. So those tasks are usually done if there's already a tenant in place. So that is already fulfilled. And then you will see you can go both ways. You can go market or exit tenant, because when you go in, the tenant is there. You may be already start managing the tenant or the property, but the tenant decides to move out. So you will go to exit tenant, or and a part of it is if the tenant will be moving out and the tenant left the property in a bad condition, then you would need to repair. And after repairing, then you will go market. After you go market, then you fulfill. You'll see it's just a cycle of task. So, pwede na, when you acquire the property, walang tenant, you will start with repair. Kasi
Yes.
there are usually
Papaayos mo pa.
rehabs and upgrades that the owner wants to do with the property. So with repair, this where inspection comes in, find a contractor who will do rehab. This will be the same with when you have work orders. With the when you find contractors, you have to get bids, repair bids, and set a timeline. So this is where if the property is vacant when the
Yes.
owner acquired it, or if it's already a property that is, or what do you call that?
Turnkey.
Yeah, turnkey. If the property is already turnkey, that means it's already in a good condition. It's already been rehabbed. It's just already ready for move in for a tenant. Then on the cycle, you will start on market.
Market,
So
dito na
marketing
siya.
the tenant.
Dito na siya papasok.
Correct. Or when the property is acquired. So you will see it's just a cycle. So that you can start anywhere in any of these stages when you start working with the client or with the owner.
Yeah. Dito lang umiikot yung buhay ng property management VA, itong 4-step cycle na to. So, every time, kagaya nga nung sinabi ni Eve, every time that the landlord or your client acquires a new property for rental, yung pasok niya sa cycle, yung pasok ng property sa cycle mo would depend on the condition of the property. So, kagaya nga nung sinabi ni Eve, kapag yung property mo sira-sira pa, so syempre papasok siya sa repair. So that means ito yung una mong gagawin na task. Ngayon naman, kung yung property na in-acquire ni client this month is okay naman siya, pero hindi niya gusto yung tenant. Let's say, gusto niya ng sarili niyang tenant kasi gusto na niyang mag-raise ng rent. Nung binili niya yung property na yon, let's say, there's an existing tenant who pays $850 because they've been on that rent amount for 2 years. So, minsan, si landlord, again, they did their research na. So, alam niya na kayang erase yung rent. So, sometimes, dito agad papasok yung, kumbaga, yung step of the process. Dito ka mag-i-start sa exit tenant. Bakit? Kasi nga, ipapaalisin mo yung tenant na luma so that you can have a new one with a higher rent amount. So, papasok ka sa exit tenant bago ka pumasok dun sa repair ulit, and then market, and then manage. So, ganun din sa iba. Kapag ang property is turnkey na, rent ready na, wala nang papagawa. Ayan, manage na kaagad. Check-in na kaagad ng tenant, ganyan, and so on. So, parang, yung sa lahat ng mga sinabi ni Eve, actually, this is like a clear summary of like what your responsibilities would be like. And then just each step of the cycle can be broken down into each task. So, yan. So, hindi to kompleto, syempre, yung task na to. Again, every business owner manages their own business uniquely. So, merong mga mawawala, may mga madadagdag. Pero, again, you can simply just like summarize your job as a PMVA through these 4 steps. Yung repair, ma-market mo, and then manage, and then exit tenant. So, paulit-ulit lang yan.
And one thing that I would like to add, if you'll go dun sa breakdown ng task, you will notice there, yan dyan, Sa repair, dapat meron ding final walkthrough dyan. Market may final
Yeah.
walkthrough. Exit tenant may final
My
walkthrough.
final walkthrough.
That is very important kasi, for example, on repair, you need to have a final walkthrough to make sure that whatever is on the repair bid that needs to be done was done, and it was done in a good condition or in na quality yung gawa. Kasi
Yes.
um, we need to for the final walkthrough on the repair, we need to take pictures because it will be part of the marketing. So
Yes. Tama.
so we market, we need to have good pictures, and we have to make sure that when we start marketing, it is really rent ready. So we need to do that final walkthrough. Now on marketing, the final walkthrough there is needed if you have marketed the property and you will do showings with the prospect applicants. So on the showing and may tenant na nag-apply, part of this would be like a move-in checklist. So you need to do a walkthrough with the tenant, with the prospect tenant, so that they would know, they have checked that the lights are working, there are no leaks, the doorknobs are all in place. So may
Mm.
checklist dapat to walk through that the tenant signed and agreed that before siya nag-move in, the property is in a good condition. So that's the why the final walkthrough there is very important. Now, on the exit tenant, another final walkthrough is needed kasi we have to know naman ano yung nasira ni tenant while the tenant is
Mm.
staying on the property. So we need to do a final walkthrough. This one is called move out checklist. So we need to have a
Mm.
move out checklist because we need to know when you moved in. So we will have a comparison. When you move in, we have here check that the AC is working. Now that you are moving out, the AC is not working anymore. There is a leak on the sink. There is a part of the stairs has been broken. So we need to have like assessment of the property. So what happened during the duration na nagstay si tenant? Kasi that is one way that we can check if we would still need to refund the security deposit or not. And also, it will be our basis on what we need to repair and to prepare the property again for another rehab for the next tenant. So
Yes.
you have to keep in mind the move-in checklist and move-out checklist. So here it is just showing us final walkthrough, but these walkthroughs are very important that you need to remind, or you need to remind yourself, or that as a property manager, that you always need to do this on each of the property that you manage. So on these stages, that is very important.
Tama.
That's it. So
Ano pa ba?
next, what's our next slide?
And I mean, you guys don't have to remember all of it, and I can share these slides to you. Pero it pays to know na alam mo
Mhm.
tong mga ganitong bagay. Kasi, syempre, for you to come out as an expert, di ba, next time that you work
Mhm.
with a client, either sa loob ng leveling up or outside, di ba, at least you can represent yourself better na. Kasi you know the nitty-gritty things na, yung mga little things na kailangan gawin ng PMVA. So, again, you will come out as an expert, and your client will trust you more in sa working relationship nyo. So, pogi points yon sa'yo.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Tools
So
and
now we
applications.
are moving with tools and
Malapit na tayo
applications.
matapos, guys. Onti na lang.
All right. So for tools and applications, these are just really the basic tools that you would be using as a property manager. So Google. So here is where Google Sheet, Google Form. So the office tools that you have, if not in Google, Word, Excel sheet. So these are the typically tools that you use. You use this for reports, spreadsheet, the Google Form or the Microsoft Word. You use it for lease when you edit lease or you create a lease for the owner for the property. So next
Yes.
is we do signature apps like DocuSign or HelloSign. So why do you use this app or this tool? So if your client is will ask you to have the tenant sign the lease, you can send them through DocuSign. Since we work remotely,
Yes.
we can do online signature. They can sign the lease there. Or if the tenant or the owner is very OC that they want repair bids signed as well, or if they would like to like an acknowledgement that it has been received. So anything that needs signature, you can use this app.
Yep. Next.
Next
Communication
is
platform.
communication platform. So Slack. Most of them are using Slack. So I'm not sure if you guys is familiar, but I know some of you are already using and familiar with Slack. Google Voice, you can use this for calls, calling tenants, or calling the client. Also for Zoom. Zoom is where you can use for meetings, like what we are using now. So part of the fulfillment or managing is you need to have at least a meeting with the client so you can discuss the
Once a week,
updates.
no?
Once a week, you need to make sure you have a meeting with the client or with the owner to give updates, get approvals of what you
Ask
need.
questions.
Correct, and verification. So we usually use Zoom with that. Now with Loom, we for property management, we will be using Loom in
Oops.
instances that you need to show for example, the tenant is not familiar with Appfolio, just in the event that the owner is using Appfolio as a tool. The tenant is not familiar or aware how to set up their portal link. You can do a Loom video showing where to go and giving the instruction on where to go so that they can set it up on their end.
Parang
So
screen recorder lang naman siya.
yes.
So you can use it when dealing with tenants na let's say meron kayong payment platform, 'di ba? If they're not familiar
Mm-mm.
where to go para magbayad ng upa, you can use Zoom to record your screen to show them where to go. And you can also use this when communicating with clients. Let's say meron silang binigay sa na task. Tapos you came across a roadblock, may question ka, hindi mo ma-figure out. Nag-Google ka na't lahat-lahat, nag-YouTube ka na, hindi mo pa rin ma-figure out. Zoom is perfect so that you can show the client na this is where I'm stuck at and this is what I need help with. Kasi sometimes, a video paints 1,000 words eh. mas okay yon than
Visuals enough.
the text. Yeah. Or sometimes words are not enough. Okay.
Yeah, and then next we have is property management application. So what we have here example, and I know you guys heard me mention this a couple of times during training. And so Appfolio is a property management software. So based on the ratings of the property management softwares, this is what the Appfolio has the best advanced feature and preferred by REI or real estate investor to use for as per property management software, because there are other like Buildium. Buildium is good, but it's also quite expensive, and there's some features that is not available in Buildium. There are free property management software as well, but of course the features you cannot expect that everything is in there. Unlike Appfolio, this is like a one-stop shop. So
Yes.
for
So
property
pag
management.
pwede kayong pag meron kayong new client na clueless, what should we use when managing our rental? You can suggest Appfolio. Eve mentioned Buildium as well. Pwede rin yung cloud tenant, pwede rin yun. And then what else pa ba?
Playbook, REI Playbook, some use
REI
that.
Playbook.
So yon. So we will have in-depth discussion with Appfolio in the later days, in the coming days. So
Yes.
you can check on that. But moving on the next slide, we have here client communication. So of course, you have to make sure that you have a constant communication with your client or with the owner. So what we have here is weekly meeting. So what that was mentioned that you need to have at least once a week a meeting with the owner in regards to the property that you manage, so that you can give them updates. Hey, last week the occupancy rate was at 65%. Then
Hmm.
over the last week, we had 2 move-ins. So this is where you report what happened over the last week so that they would be made always up to date on what's going on. Because you don't want to be receiving message that, hey, this property has been vacant for 6 months. What's going on? So if you have a weekly update, if it is vacant, you would show a report that you have already a scheduled showing of 10 people, no one applied. So this is where you can discuss the uh, the everything so that nothing goes into cracks with the information
Yes.
that your owner needs to know, and approval of the purchases that you need. So instead of doing like everyday ka mangungulit, you gather all the questions, gather everything that for approvals and anything that you need from the owner, so that on that weekly meeting, bigay mo sa kanya ng isang bagsak, then you will get the answer that you need right there and then. Kasi sometimes nga busy
Yes.
sila. You will
Oo.
not get the
Tanong ka ng tanong,
responses.
hindi naman siya nagre-reply.
And daily updates. With the daily updates, it depends on how you work with the owner or the client. So sometimes they ask you for like an end of day report. So you log in at this time, and when you log out, you will do an end of day report that today I marketed this property at 123
Main
Street.
Street.
So I marketed it on a different, mag-mention ka na kung saang website, or we have a showing scheduled on this. So whatever you have done for the day. So you can do daily updates. Then
Yes.
for the reporting, so these are very important to us as a property manager. The reports that they usually ask is for the property, they ask you for a cash flow report. So every month, what has been done. So because part of it is you are paying utilities, there are utility expenses, work order expenses, and then the rent is $1,000. And then at the end of the month, you will see kumita ba tayo or hindi. So
Oh.
part of it is the cash flow report. Another report that they want to see is delinquent. So if this is like an apartment complex, so not a single family or multi-family home, if it's apartment complex, there are a lot of units. So you will see there how many units or persons are already delinquent. You need to provide a delinquency report, work order report. What did the property receive any maintenance or work order? So these are the kind of reports that usually presented on a spreadsheet that you need to provide
Can
your.
I share yung lumang dashboard, Eve?
Sure.
Kahit all data. Para just to give everyone yung an actual example ng mga reports. So like what Eve said, nakikita nyo ba guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a good way for a property management VA to present what is happening in their rentals. So kung makikita mo, ito yung mga tinatawag nating key performance indicators or KPIs ng mga landlords natin. So every week, what would be ideal is you gather this, ayan how many tenants ang meron, how many units yung meron para malaman mo na yung occupancy rate, 'di ba? 21/27 units. Ilang leads yung pumasok. Yung pag sinabing leads dito sa part na to is ilang tenant ang nag-apply. Tapos, 'di ba? Tapos ilan yung nagpa-schedule ng showing. Inire-record din 'yan. Tapos ilan yung sumipot sa showing. Tapos, 'di ba? Pagkatapos ng showing, pagkatapos na nila mag-showing, makikita na nila yung apartment o it's either ipupush na nila yung application or not. Kasi sa US may application pa, hindi kagaya sa Pilipinas, 'di ba? Parang ano lang NBI or sige na, pasok ka na. Pero sa US meron pang screening, i-check mo pa yung credit score mo, may background, may employee verification pa, keme-keme. So as a PMVA, you have to track that din. So, tapos ilan yung na-approve? Ewan ko dito bakit mas mataas yung na-approve sa rental application. Siguro, the approval came in the previous week, kaya ganyan. No, if most likely. So that happens. And then, ilan yung nag-move in? Di ba? Ilan yung nadagdag? So, most likely, kaya naging 21 tenants to kasi May
Na
4 na
nag-move.
nadagdag this week. Tapos ilan din yung nag-move out, ilan yung evictions going on, ilan yung mga hindi nagbayad, delinquent. Tapos ilan din yung mga work orders, ito yung mga maintenance request ng mga tenant na sirang parte ng bahay. So these are good KPI indicators that you could start tracking for your clients. Once you I mean, ang ganda kasi para sa akin, doon nila makikita yung totoong value ng pag-hire sa inyo eh. Kasi
Correct.
your main job is not just to manage yung mga rental properties nila, but also to oversee yung what's happening, hindi lang yung daily task na minention natin kanina, but to
You
look
have
at the
to make
big
sure
picture.
that
Yes.
the property is performing.
Yeah.
So performing is with these KPIs, and it means that it's generating income.
Exactly. Kasi pag hindi kumikita yung paupahan, malamang-lamang sa mga susunod na buwan, mawawalan ka rin ng trabaho kasi wala nang pampasahod sa'yo, obviously, di ba? Kasi, ano ba yung mga pwedeng maging problema? Minsan, sobrang dami na pala ng work orders, hindi nyo minomonitor. Yung pala, unti-unti nang nabubulok yung paupahan nyo. Di ba? Or, let's say, sobrang dami na palang delinquent na tenant. Hindi nyo alam kasi hindi nyo tinatrack. So, these things are here as a roadmap. Not really a roadmap pero well, yeah, these are roadmaps pero ito para tong ilaw sa dashboard ng sasakyan. So kapag merong mga pulahan, 'di ba sa sasakyan pag kailangan mo ng magpa-change oil, iilaw 'yon. So this is like a dashboard ng sasakyan. So ito yung big picture na nangyayari sa lahat ng mga rentals mo. In order for you to perform the right actions that has to be done depende dun sa nangyayari sa portfolio ni tenant ni client kasi most of the time ang mga client natin marami silang paupahan di ba, and sometimes we can get distracted with what's happening in every rental, so having this is very helpful. Okay. And then ano pa
Then the next thing that I have here is approval. So that's part of yung mentioned ko kanina sa weekly meeting. So you are communicating with your client because you need approvals with payments and purchases. Since everything that money involves, we need to have them get their approval first before we continue with the purchase.
Oo. Ewan ko kung sino yung may naka-experience na sa inyo nito with the client, but minsan meron silang inalaw na, for example, okay, hire a drywall guy, 'di ba? O pintor. Tapos this is the budget. Tapos minsan nakakalimutan ng mga client Minsan pag magbigay ka ng contractor, may binigay ka ng bid, tapos makikita nila yung amount. Oh, bakit ang taas? Ito nga yung binigay nila. So it's always good na yung mga approvals, mga ganyan, documented pa rin yan. It's either sa Slack or sa text or sa email para hindi ka laging nabubutasan. Correct. And then last na, dagdag ko na lang to Eve, I can't stress this enough, yung daily updates. This applies not just sa PMVAs, but actually to everyone who works remotely. You have to understand you're working halfway around the globe. So there's always that, hindi naman sa lagi tayong pinagdududahan ng mga kliyente natin, pero there's always that, alam mo yon, that thinking na, ano bang ginagawa nitong PMVA ko? Hindi ko naman alam. Naka-in ba siya ngayon? Or nagne-Netflix ba siya? O, diba? Hindi kanya nararamdaman. So sa opisina, pag magkasama kayo, makikita mo kung nagtatrabaho yung katrabaho mo di ba? Nasa harap siya ng computer, hindi siya naglalakad, hindi siya nagkakapilang. Pero sa work from home setup, they don't. So you have to give them you have to give them the benefit na update na lagi, ito yung ginagawa ko. It doesn't have to be na pagkatapos ko ng task na ito, update na naman ganito. Pero what would help is if you can start your day with the list, di ba? Look at your calendar. Ito yung may hearing ako dito. Meron akong tenant screening, meron akong tatawagan, ganyan-ganyan. Maghahanap ako ng bid. So you can list it down so that you can start your day with intentions. Meron ka na siyang direction. And then you can just go ahead and share that with the client para at least pag umpisa pa lang ng araw mo, pag login mo ng 12:00 ng madaling araw, alam na ng kliyente mo, okay, so this is what Eve will do for today. So, at least, 'di ba? Hindi na sila yung nagtataka, ano mong ginagawa nito? So, yun lang. Kasi we've seen that there has been some common issue. Mga usual concerns from clients about their VAs not being not updating their clients on what they're doing. So, I just want to reiterate on this part lang.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next. May
Next,
answer pa dito.
That's all. Okay na yan.
Okay. Ayun na.
Well, that's actually everything sa introduction natin sa PMVA. But let's do a knowledge check.
Miss Eve and Sir Jordan,
Yes,
before po tayo sana pumunta din sa ayan for
Knowledge
some
check.
questions. Yeah. I have a question with the CMHA. I mean, you have the experience naman how to navigate CMHA.
Yeah.
Kasi dito sa inspection kasi sa home, lahat ba ng mga for inspection dito makikita, even yung mga scheduled, yung mga paparating parang ng schedule for inspection sa unit inspection dito sa mismong
Sa portal.
tab.
Usually, for CMHA, once the tenant have already submitted the RAFTA, yung RFTA form, yung application form nila to CMHA, they are assigned to a specific case manager. Then that case manager is the one who's going to inform you, since ikaw yung property manager and main contact for the property, to inform you when is the schedule of the inspection.
Yeah,
So-
because one of the parang customer service or ng CMHA, tinatanong ako kung dun sa portal ba namin, kasi we're using CMHA portal for any any inspection notices showing up on your portal when they are scheduled. So I'm not sure kung side ba namin dito sa portal namin or dun sa tenant, kasi si tenant lang nagpa-schedule nitong inspection eh. So right now,
There's
tinanong ko
an
na rin kay
inspection
Nick.
schedule. There should be a notification that will show up on the landlord portal as well.
No, wala kasi siya. Kahit i-search ko siya dun sa mismong tab ng search pa dun sa units inspection, hindi talaga nag-a-appear. Kaya yung system yata nila talaga.
Minsan kasi yung caseworker hindi nag-update, 'di ba? Yung section
Saka
8
the portal
caseworker.
ng CMHA has not been good in the past month.
I see.
So,
That's
may
may
error
maraming
talaga.
complaint.
And I'm not sure if you're still using the old portal. May bago na kasi. So,
yung new portal lang
I'll send you a link to make sure na you're using yung new
Okay.
one.
Alright.
Kasi may bago na sila na Pero the old one is still existing. Kasi yung new one, yung sa old, hindi mo na nakikita dun yung mga payments,
Reviews.
deposits. Hindi na nag-update dun. So, may new portal na sila. So, I'll send you a link after to see if you're
Alright.
using the new portal already.
Okay, thank
Oo.
you.
Just also to add up to that, Kat, is ang best resource person pa rin pagdating sa listahan ng mga inspection or yung mga things to do, yung caseworker mo. Kasi sometimes may mga caseworker ng Section 8 na legalistic na talagang by the book. Tapos meron namang ibang maluwag Pero, so, syempre, mas gugustuhin natin yung mas madali, di ba? Yung maipapasok na kaagad natin yung tenant natin. So, kung ano lang yung hiningi nila, you can provide that. Tapos, i-reserve mo na lang yung mga other information that you have. Pero as far as like yung mga requirements, yung schedule ng inspection, ganyan, minsan yung CMHA portal hindi yan updated. So, best resource person pa rin yung caseworker mo. Kadalasan naman kasi that, diba, for example, ikaw, you're managing rentals in Cleveland, diba? Bawat program ng Section 8, may kanya-kanyang caseworker yan for every area or for every county. So, kadalasan parehong tao lang yung makakatrabaho mo. Minsan merong mga 2-3 caseworker ang Eden, minsan merong 2 ang CMHA, pero kadalasan sila lang din yun So, marirealize mo later down the road na, merong mga caseworker na mabilis katrabaho, madaling sumagot, meron din mga caseworker na hindi.
Yes.
And you have to make sure na kulitin mo sila as much as you can kasi
Oo, medyo matagal yung mga yan.
Yeah. Yun nga yung sabi ni Nick eh. Sobrang
Mm.
tatagal,
Matagal
alam
na
ni
bago.
Jen yan.
alam niya.
Gobyerno yan eh.
Kaya yung mga supervisor na lang si MHA yung itinatag niya sa email kapag
Yes.
sobrang tagal na ng mga
Oo, ganun.
reply.
So, I think it helps.
The
Ano,
process is, same with us, if yung processing is sobrang tagal na and naiinip na yung owner, syempre, yung, for example, yung your NCA, si Nick, bakit ang tagal nito? Hindi pa rin nagkaka-tenant. But the problem is with CMHA. So,
Yes.
escalate it if you have to. So,
Pero
call
yung
them.
sa case ko
Yung
naman,
director.
sa case ko naman, Miss
Director na eh.
Oo. Sa case ko naman, Miss Eve, meron ng tenant. May tenant na siya. So, parang ano lang siya for inspection. Siguro mag-apply siya for another,
versus Section 8.
oo, Section 8. So,
CMHA do annual inspection. So, if there's already a
oo.
tenant, maybe it's the time of the year that they do the annual inspection for that.
Yes.
And after the inspection, that is where you can take advantage of our market rent increase.
Oo, tama.
Yeah.
Ayun. Okay, may questions pa ba, guys?
Any questions ba kayo?
Si Marge, may question nata si Marge eh.
Dami mo share yan si Marge.
Jezreel, may question ba? Masha, Janus, Kent.
All good po ako, sir.
Pagod
Okay.
din po ako, sir. Nag-absorb lang ako ng knowledge.
Absorb. Sige, ipopost na lang natin tong recording na to online. Papa-edit lang natin kay Kim tapos para mabalikan nyo. And then if you guys need a copy of the slides, just let Say no so Say can share it with you. Okay. Mag-ano pa tayo? Knowledge check. I think we can just go ahead and send the questionnaires to everyone
In a
Tapos,
type form.
sa type form or sa Google form. Tapos you can just go ahead and reply. Okay. So what's next? I guess we're good. So we're done now for this is just an overview ng property management. I know it took an hour and a half almost. Pero these are parang mga vital information for you to have a better understanding nung role mo, and then at the same time nung mga specific na tools and mga responsibilities mo. So again, sa mga next training sessions natin, we'll deep dive into yung paggamit ng tools, which is yung isa doon is yung Appfolio, kasi ito yung parang pinaka-robust na software and most of the landlords use. So kapag marunong ka mag-Appfolio, malaki yung bentahe mo sa freelance market.
Correct.
So mas madali kang makaka-attract ng kliyente pag sinabi mong experience ka with this. So most likely either Thursday next week or Friday again next week, no? Let's see. We'll keep everyone posted on the news, on the schedule, and again the topic will be more about softwares na, so more specific na sa property management. Okay, so yun lang. I'm sure wala nang questions. I'm gonna stop the recording na.
Thank you.